Okay, so today we will talk a little about MCP servers. I know that MCP servers have come a long way, and in this video we will discuss, the most latest changes that has happened and how you can potentially build, a MCP server for your use cases, how you can use it, and the best part is about integration with different things. So there's a small documentation that I have added. I'll share this with you in the GitHub repository, but just to give you a brief, MCP servers communicate over JSON-RPC, and I hope you understand the difference between JSON and JSON-RPC. RPC is just a remote procedure call, which basically tells you about how the data should interact, what are the methodologies. It happens behind the scenes, mostly for server to server communication. It's one of the most fitted protocols, but anyways, that can have its own video. In short, MCP operation creates a JSON RPC message. It can be through stdio or streamable HTTP. So there are these different transport types: stdio, SSC, and streamable HTTP. stdio is best used when you have local tools, and we will see the examples: desktop clients and development. I mean, it's, you can say, one of the easiest and fastest way, and also can be the stable way when you're developing it. However, when your application communicates, you will want to go with the streamable HTTP. Like, let's say you have done building your application, your MCP app, MCP server, and now you want to deploy it so that the other clients can reach through it. So for that, the best one is streamable HTTP. Earlier, we used to have a SSC, which used to create a connection, and then you talk to your client. So it's like something like this. So whenever a MCP client, which is the requester, will make a call to MCP server, and then it will basically open a persistent SSC stream, and then client will start interacting through that stream. So that was the idea initially, but then it changed to a single streamable HTTP client. So later on, we just have one single MCP/MCP URL, and this is the one which does all the communication and everything, like getting immediate response, streaming response, event streams, and creating sessions and everything. And now with MCP4, you also have these stateful sessions over the streamable HTTP client. So that is actually even one step further, but we will discuss about that in later. In short, just wanted to give you the context of all the transport types that are available. And yeah, I mean, in this documentation, I have added some examples of how we go through. But other thing that I wanted to highlight is this. So this is like a minimal MCP server, you can say. In an MCP, treat MCP server is as the gateway, you can say, a gateway where all your LLM or all your agentic applications can potentially do a lot of things. For example, if you want to do some maybe some chemistry experiments, or perform some experiments and try out different things, note the observations of how things are happening, create some chemicals, etc. You need a chemistry lab, right? So treat this MCP as the lab where you where your agent or your LLM basically facilitates all these operations, are facilitated with all these operations through a MCP server. So MCP server empowers them with the right tools, right prompts, right skills, and everything. And this is an example of minimal MCP server. It's just taken from the FastMCP guide, where you can find all these documentation. So we start with the tools. We can also see how other things happen, like resources and everything. And behind the scenes, this is taking two inputs and returning the responses. Is like the simplest tool that you can have, and you can use this to provide the data and everything. And MCP server behind the scenes will translate it from a raw JSON to JSON RPC. You can see that in the MCP Inspector, and then return you the response as expected. So I've added a couple of tools just to give you a gist of what's happening. Add two numbers, greet, then this is something app equal to true. So this is a new feature of MCP, and this is something that is a little more promising and more modern. So what happens is that you have this interactive application within your MCP, and if you deploy it, it can be connected to any LLM application, like whether it be ChatGPT, whether it be Claude Code, it could be anything. Okay, so we do all of that stuff here, and we are just saying that okay, we'll greet it with the card. Now this card is a interactive, or you can say UI based application. The simplest way is to use prefetch, which is this prefab UI. So it has these components which you can use. It's very kind of intuitive design. You can use Tailwind CSS if you recognize these classes like width full, max width, in medium screen, and all those Tailwind classes are applicable. You can add those classes, and then you create a row, you create icon, then you create badges. Again, these are all UI components that come out of prefab UI. And then you have these things, text and all those things. Okay, and then finally we return the view. So this is example of a intuitive but not a dynamic application. So in this we just show it in a very beautiful way, but we are not considering user inputs. Again, we can do that here as well, but I have created one more tool, which is custom HTML, and first we create the custom HTML with the name and everything, and then we return this, and then we call it in the custom view. So this is a big HTML. Those who are familiar with HTML, I think you already understand what's going on. So we are creating meta tags, head, and then we are styles, inline styles, all the CSS and everything. Again, this is an example. You can actually host your HTML through a React application or anything, and then you can just put the just link it here. But just to keep things minimal and explain you, I've just added everything here. So there are some CSS styles. These are all generated from Claude, just to give it a appearance, look and feel and everything. And then there's some media queries, and then this is the main thing that we render. Again, this is the dynamic part. In the script, if you see that how this is done, we are basically getting all these, and then we render name is using the value method, and based on that, if it is a valid name, it will take that, otherwise it will default to just friend. And there's an event listener which will update. So there's a button click also in this. Let me show. So this thing, update greeting, whenever this is triggered, then we update the name with this new input value, and that's in everything. And then there is this on tool result, which is a callback added by this application, and this is all connection. Okay, so these are like 4 tools that I wanted to show you. Tools are like the major powerhouses. So basically any operation you want to perform which LLM cannot do alone, you can create. Like let's say you're creating a custom application of your own, for example an invoice application where you do show invoices, create invoices, delete invoices, things like that. So you can have similar kind of tool. You can create all those tools, and then this one is exposed through a resource. So we will see how resources can be seen, and then the resource we are using it in the tool. So basically we are using this custom greeting UI. If you see, this is the name and this is how it is configured. So in resources you can also basically expose prompts, you can do a lot of things. So I just wanted to give you a context of what are the capabilities of this thing, and we'll see it in action also, and how you can integrate everything together. Okay, so first let's start with the MCP Inspector. For MCP Inspector we can just use npx add model context protocol /inspector. This is a npm package which is published by MCP maintainers, and it's pretty cool and it's good to debug it. We'll also see how this integrates with our internal application like Claude Code or Codex. In this case we'll be using Codex because it supports the local setup. However, if you publish this, then you can connect it with Claude or any LLM application. Most of them will support MCP because MCP has become the new common for all these tools to interact. And MCP and you can always look at the documentation of how it works. Like they will tell you arguments and everything, and what to inspect and how to inspect and everything. But let me show you so that it's easier for us. It will auto launch the session. So here we go, and you can see that we have stdio, the 3 transport types we talked about. So whenever you host your application or deploy it to a server, then external clients will very likely be going through this. I will need to add a UV command, and I'll also need to add some arguments. So arguments are basically how you want to run it. So let me just I just kept it as a reference for here. Again, these arguments are like how basically you want your application will be running locally. You just need to put it here. So this is how for me it runs, and I'll just connect. So now and clear it off, and I think clear because now we are connected to new MCP, so I've cleared everything. So I can just click on list resources. You can see that the custom greeting view and prefab renderer, the card that we had. So these are exposed to MCP as a resources, which can then be used by the tools. Okay, like here, where did it go? Resource domains. This resource URI and everything. Okay, so that's one thing, and prefab does this for you behind the scenes, so you don't have to worry about that. But we can see that this is how it's content and everything. And then we can go to prompts. Again, there's no prompts, so it's empty. We can always add prompts also, it's not very big deal. Then we can go to the tools and list the tools. So these are 4 tools that we discussed about: add, greet with card, greet with question. So let me just have something like add 2 and let's say 4, and then run tools. So you can see that how the schema looks like in the format and everything, output schema, how it is, and it's -42. Right? Oh, I think it got changed. Maybe let's have 4 and run 2. So you can see that this is how, and if I copy the input and let me just go here and maybe put it here, so you can see that it gives me the raw JSON, but then this is converted to the RPC format within the MCP server. Internally, you don't need to worry about it. And this is the unstructured content, because we are just returning the string, the result, and it's casted into the string. Okay, similarly, if I do a greet, let's say I put the name technopain, you can see that it just greets, and that's all. Similarly, greet with card. Now this is a interactive UI component, but just see what happens if I do like this. So you can see that it's doing something, but since it's a JSON response, we are not sure what it is. Now what happens is that this is built in the LLM or Agentic system, that how we can render these. This is like the CSS class, and these are the rules that need to be followed. And then the client itself has that capability of correctly decoding this, because this is a view, so it will accordingly render it, and we'll see that example. And similarly, greet with HTML also, it will do the same thing for me. I'll just run it, and you can see that it just does this structured context meta, and that's all. So we'll see how this this basically will create a custom HTML wrapper, which will be coming from resources, and then the LLM client which we are using, that will automatically know what to do. Okay, so now let's go back and go to the README. So I'm using Codex because I can easily integrate the development MCP. So here are the tools that here are the commands that I need to add into the TOML file, the configuration TOML of Codex. These are the exact commands that we use for the MCP Inspector. And then I also have a simple custom prompt, so I can just use this. And let me and once you add this, you can always verify it. So let's say I just do Codex, and then I do /MCP. So you can see that my MCP is listed here, and that's one thing that I just want to do. You can confirm, or you should always confirm, but now since it's there, I can just open my Codex application. Alright, I can just paste this command and just hit enter. So I am just invoking all of them together, and now it will invoke my MCP, and you can see that again, if you're doing it for the first time, it will ask for permissions. Just grant it, and then it will be able to call and invoke these MCPs. So here, if you see, so see, this is interactive shell that I was talking about, and this is interaction with you can actually interact with this, but we'll see one by one. So Originally it's a JSON response only. You can see the the response also, because it's a proper MCP client, so you get this kind of a response, but it knows how to render it and how to present it, and that's why it's giving you in this way. So like, let's say I update demo or something like that, then you can see that on clicking the button it's updating. And again, this could be anything. This is a very minimal example, but you can make a backend API call. Maybe you can show some live stats, maybe some SSE based dashboard, input output, all those things. And actually FastMCP has a good example of how they can look like. So let me open this. Actually this one maybe, yeah, see, you can have these kind of dashboards, interactive dashboards, like where you can change things, so you can see the progress and everything. You can create input output registration and all those things. This is a minimal example, as I told you. You can in fact expose this through a React UI, like a proper React UI, and then you can create lot of material UI packages and all, and then you can create input output instead of this HTML, and then you can create something like this, and this will all be sitting inside your LLM. So you will be able to see all the LLM inside your canvas, and that could be very helpful if your application needs such kind of integrations and easy usability for basically any LLM client to interact with. So if I ask, can you tell me what is in the canvas of custom HTML and what I can do with it, so you can see that basically it tells me. So LLM can, so let's say you have lot of things, you can actually the user which may not be sure on how to operate on this UI, they can always use the LLMs to ask and query and everything. And because the LLM part remains at the user end, so basically you can kind of not worry too much about the LLM side for testing these applications. Again, this MCP doesn't have to connect with the ChatGPT. It could connect with any other agentic system that you are building, so it's totally fine to connect with that also. But I just gave you an example of how these work into it. I hope this video was helpful, and yeah, maybe I'll bring more of these so that you get a better understanding of how these systems work end to end. And that's all. Thank you very much.